We're out at Jack's Beach today. I love Jacksonville Beach.
Me too.
It's one thing that is so unique about our great city. I live out on the west side of Jacksonville, but when you come out to the beach, you just feel different. And we're here today to talk to a homegrown business leader in Jacksonville that's just done something great. And not only that, but has lived a pretty incredible life. And I think you're going to really enjoy the conversation today.
I want to know if you're having flashbacks at this point.
I'm having a little bit of
Did you cringe a little bit when you walked in?
We're going to talk about that. I am a little bit nervous right now. Like I can definitely tell when I look at my Whoop after the show, my heartbeat's going to be up a little bit higher than normal. So, but I do have something I wanted to say as we introduce our guest, Jason McCarthy, a warrior. Yeah. And, I've told you several times about how, I want my family, I want my kids to be warriors. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going off to war, but they're approaching every day.
Yeah, it's
with a warrior mentality,
Yeah.
and we're going to meet one today.
Yep.
I can tell you that. No joke. He used to make fun of the workouts I used to do and asked me to come do one with him, and he was right. But Jason McCarthy, the CEO of GORUCK, started a small company and has grown it across it's really global now. We're so honored to have you here. Former Green Beret, served our country with valor, and I cannot wait for this conversation, bro. Great
Thanks for coming out to the beaches, coming back to the beach,
crossing the ditch to get over here.
So we were talking about what we were going to have to drink today, and I said, dude, we've got to have Bud Heavies because I have a story about this. Jason invited me to come out and do a ruck, and I think it was an 8-hour. I can't remember exactly. I knew it started when it was dark outside and it ended in the afternoon. So
when we say ruck, though, that really, at its simplest form, is put a little bit of weight on your back and go for a walk. This was a GORUCK challenge.
It was.
That is a ruck plus a whole lot more. And it was a team building event patterned off of the type of training that I went through in Special Forces training, where you have a cadre or a leader, and you take a group of people, and through shared physical adversity, you come together as a team. It's individually challenging, and it's worth it because of the people that you get to do it with. And at the end, the Bud Heavy tastes really, really good. It
really does. I just want to tell you a little bit about what we went through and correct me. I don't know if it's changed since I've done it, but you wear a 50-pound backpack. And at first, no, that's okay. We can do that.
Yep.
After 15 minutes and what we had to do, it really starts to take a toll. And we had to ruck to the beach, and Jason gave us empty sandbags. I'm like, why are you giving me an empty sandbag? What are we going to do with this?
You would get smarter throughout the event. I watched the light bulbs. They came fast.
The light bulbs
to be able to predict.
I'm like, why is he making me take a sandbag to the beach?
Right.
Well, and there were paint buckets, 5-gallon paint buckets. I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever done. Well, when you get to the beach, you basically had to fill the buckets up with salt water and fill the sandbags up. And little did I know that was going to torture me the rest of the day. And you had to carry the water buckets back. And if you there was a line that if you spilled any of the water, it's all coming back to me right now. You spill the water, you got to start up.
You got to go back.
It was pretty bad. And carrying 5-gallon buckets of ocean water back to the ruck headquarters, your forearms, you can't drop it either. You can't let it touch the ground. It was pretty rough.
You can share these things, though, and that's kind of part of the point.
I remember that.
It's not just pain for its own sake. There's a purpose to it, and it's like you learn something about yourself, but you also are around the kind of people that want to challenge and push themselves. And we all, every once in a while at least, need someone to push us a little bit, a little bit more, break up the monotony. Staring at yourself in the mirror at the gym or whatever is cool, but every once in a while you got to kind of really whoop it up.
See what you're made of, right?
Yeah.
And we bear crawled around the corporate headquarters with the backpack. That was rough. At one point, we rucked down to the fire station and washed all the fire trucks with the ruck. And this was when the heat of the day was. And then when we're hiking back, this is 6 hours into it, he would tap people on the shoulder. And if you got tapped, that means you were out, basically. And you had to carry that person. You basically had to carry the person plus the sandbags, everything. You get back, and the last thing he does is he breaks open a cooler with freezing cold, heavy buds. And It was the most delicious thing I've ever tasted in my entire life.
You needed all those calories after that.
So with that, cheers. Brother. Thanks for having us out.
Cheers. So Shakespeare said, all's well that ends well. It's a little trick, right? I mean, you go through all this stuff and then you drink a cold beer at the end. Somehow that's what you remember.
And it was. I mean, I literally, it was the most delicious thing I've ever tasted because of what we went through to get it. So it's pretty cool.
How long did it take you to recover from that workout? Because you work out regularly.
It was an all afternoon. Like I was done.
Trying to get some food in you.
Do you see that from most everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're supposed to be done after something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, look, rucking is the foundation of special forces training. What that means is you have a 45-pound rucksack and you're in the pine forests of North Carolina and you go from point A to point B. Of course, you have to navigate yourself there, map and compass and all that kind of stuff. And it shows you whether you are self-sufficient and can do these kinds of things in the daytime, in the nighttime, all of that. And nobody's messing with you or doing anything. You have to first kind of just ruck, right? Just carry the weight. And then they start to stack on some of the rucks get heavier, the problems get more complicated. They start to introduce tactics. You start to introduce casualties and heavier weight and ammo cans and all of that stuff. And what you find though is that it just introduces so much teamwork. And so we've just taken, this foundation of special forces, rucking, and said, look, anybody can go outside with 10 or 20 pounds on their back and go for a walk. It's really good for a million different reasons we can get into. I could probably bore people to tears talking about all the reasons why it's good for you, but it's good for you for the same reasons that walking is good for you.
Yeah.
Go outside and move your body. This is really good. And then you just can gradually evolve. Now you went from 0 to 60, day one. So I want to just not maybe scare the entire universe off to think that this is the only thing that we do.
There's levels, right? And isn't there something that you do that's more of like an extended challenge that you have?
We have everything from kid events to 5Ks to the hardest endurance event on planet Earth called GORUCK Selection, which is patterned after the various selections in special operations. And, the pass rate on that is under 1%. And it's a brutal, brutal, brutal event. And it's just everything but more. 48 hours, you don't sleep. You're going to do 100 miles. You're routinely carrying 100 pounds. You're routinely carrying just everything. Like lots of PT throughout physical training. So
I just saw that you finished a select process.
We did.
Can you just walk through? I know you said it's 48 hours.
48 hours.
Okay, and I saw that there were 2 individuals that had made it to, I think, halfway point.
And they actually finished. It's
talk us through that.
2 out of that is a lot. I mean, you show up and it's mostly administrative for a while. I mean, there's a packing list, there's a weight requirement. This is all patterned after the same. You would call them a cool guy bag dump school, right? So they take you on a military bus somewhere and they drop you off and then like, all right, you've got a packing list, dump all your bags, and the cadre walks around and says, hold this up. And if you don't have it, in that case, they just send you home, right? Because if you're not proficient enough to pack your bags, you don't belong here. And then there's, basic, can you do push-ups? Can you do this? Well, what you find is that the violence is in the silence. On the early stages of it.
Oh, wait, I'm going to quote that.
That's a good quote.
That's pretty good.
The people's heart rates you can see enormous sweat stains developing, and they're just standing there. There's not anything going on. So it's all kind of a mind thing. And then it's hard to get into all 48 hours, but eventually they're doing log PT. The log's still out there. You pick up the log, you push the log, and then there's another station where they're doing, whatever the cadre says. So bear crawl around the building till I get tired type thing. And it's like, cadre, you're not going to get tired, and it's just, there's evolutions in stations until you're kind of wearing down the people physically. You break them down physically to see, you have to be physically strong enough, but then who's mentally strong enough that wants to sort of endure. So then, middle of the night, you're doing a time 12 miler. That's the administrative portion of the event. And then you're going into just a horrific version of cadre roulette, where you're just cadres coming in saying, it's never good enough. It's never fast enough. It's never hard enough. I want to stress that I actually hate this event. I hate it. The community for so many years asked and asked and asked for something that was even harder. Oh. And there's a part of me that loves that. we've put on over 10,000 events since 2010. All of them, except for 26 of them, the GORUCK selections, are team building. They're positive in nature. We will show you how to do it. We will encourage you. If you get too down, we'll lift you back up, or your teammates will lift you back up, even better. This is the one event, though, where the fangs come out, and that's what the people want, or what they wanted. So we have put it on. We put it on occasionally now. And it's the part that I don't always love about it, though, is it tastes and smells and feels so much like the training that I went through and the kind of anvil that I was forged on. And so it digs up all of those memories. And while they're great, they're also not all pleasant.
Yeah.
And just from the standpoint of, I went to training with a lot of people, and many of those people are not with us anymore.
Yeah.
And so, I think about those times that I was with them, and it was a miserable time. And a guy named Pat Kuchbach was, he was just always the light of the light of any evolution. He just always had a joke to crack.
Right.
He's like the guy you want to be around,
right.
No matter what. And, he died before I went to Iraq, and he was in the rotation before I was. And, those things, you can't live your life thinking about them every day, and you have to think about them sometimes. It's just events that get a little too close sometimes. You just got to space it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So the two guys that made it.
Yeah.
Do you know them? I mean, do you know them?
They've been around the community. They actually failed this event, both of them, at the same time-ish 4 years ago. So this has been a multi-year journey to pass this singular event. And look, people are going to say, well, what do they get? They get, a patch that's never for sale. They get an ice cold Budweiser, and they get a lot of respect.
I bet you that.
That's it.
I bet you that heavy was better tasting than mine.
Way better than yours.
Oh my goodness.
Is there a way that people have to tap out, like a ceremonial, how the Navy SEALs ring the bell if they're quitting the...
No, they just say, I'm done.
They say, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, the bell thing is sort of a fabled thing amongst the special operations community, but sometimes we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's the middle of, the beach 6 miles that way. I mean, I think they're supposed to ruck to Meichlers. We ended up going north on the beach instead, up towards, because you can't get into Mayport, so you have to turn around up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so they might quit in the middle, and then you got to put them in the back of a pickup truck and bring them back to the start point, and then hose them off right over there, and get them their stuff, and give them a big hug before all that.
Yeah.
Get them to clean off their stuff, get them something to eat, and yeah.
Well, let's start back at the beginning. So one of the things that TJ and I love to do is to talk about what your story is, and so why don't you tell us a little bit about where it started for you and kind of how we got where we are today?
Well, let's start with Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So I moved here before 8th grade, went to Bowles.
Where were you born?
I was born in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
But moved to Gainesville. My mom was really young when she had me. Moved to Gainesville with my mom because she had gotten a full ride to go play tennis there. So go Gators.
Yeah.
And so I was the unofficial, or maybe the official mascot of the women's tennis team at the University of Florida.
That's not a bad spot.
It was awesome, right? I mean, I was just sort of reminiscent. I remember she used to go to Ben Hill Griffith and do stadiums with the team and stuff like that. And I have such fond, far back memories of that. But I was just a kid there in Gainesville with my mom. We bounced around a little bit and ended up here in 91, 92. And I was a tennis playing stud, right? As only tennis players can be. And the best thing that did for me was that before sophomore year, I was at Bowles. Before sophomore year, I was going to a tennis clinic out at what was the ATP headquarters at the time, which is now the Bowles lower campus in Ponte Vedra. And it was the very end. It was late August, just before school's about to start. And I was walking towards the court, and I said, "Who is that?" And her name was Emily Dent. And I was like, I'm going to be on that court today. Right. So I was on that court today. And she just had this smile and just this energy. And I, of course, fell in love with her immediately.
Right.
And come to find out, thank the Lord above, that she was transferring from Terry Parker, where her mom was a French teacher for 40-something years, to bowls that next year. So she was actually going to be in my class, and she played tennis, right?
That is
so
perfect.
Serendipity.
Luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Now, it took me a decade to ask her out.
Right.
Right? So graduated from bowls, went to Emory in Atlanta, played tennis up there. That was the team sports. It was a lot of fun.
I did not know the tennis side of this. That's awesome.
The interesting part of that, though, is that I graduated in May of 2001. And I think, as a lot of kids do, I felt a lot of pressure to have everything figured out. Mm-hmm. And I had very little to nothing figured out. I applied here, applied there. Just nothing felt like me in a way that I really wanted to kind of do something that mattered. And, then unfortunately the towers fell. Mm-hmm. And I was, military age male, didn't have anything kind of going on. And I felt immediately this just vengeance that I had towards those that did that to us. And, feeling that and acting upon it are different things. Mm-hmm. So it took me 2 years to figure out what that path was going to look like, which was basically just cowardice, not just walking in and saying, I want to join the military. But a lot of people wanted to do that. And a lot of people, the lines were out the door to try to do that, because God bless us, people still are, if you're willing to fight for it, the people, it says something about a people. But I'd also applied to a lot of places, applied to the CIA and a lot of the alphabet soup agencies up there. And I got back in touch, because this is before everyone had cell phones and all. None of that stuff exists. Like when I called Emily when she was in high school, I got to talk to her mom for 15 minutes before I talked to her.
I remember
or her
that.
dad. Like, build up the courage, and then you're going to get like, oh, well, what's good?
Is Emily around?
Yeah, and it's like, right? And so, but I'd applied to a lot of different places, came back in touch with Em, and she was back in Jacksonville as well. And she's born and raised here, so I'm not a true Floridian to her, but she is a true Floridian, born and raised here. And so I was like, oh, I'm doing this thing. And she'd come back from volunteering in Ecuador for a year in a Catholic Relief Services down there. It's just kind of, that's her way, service. Mine was not, I was not built in the same way like that. I was kind of, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it wasn't necessarily, I will serve at all costs. And she just has that kind of heart. Right. So I was like, oh, I applied here, applied there. But I told her about the CIA. So I'm like, oh, you should totally apply there. So, she did, right? And we're still kind of rekindling a friendship. I'm still crazily in love with her, as I always was.
Does she know you're crazy in love with her?
She says now that she didn't know that. I mean, her emotional intelligence.
Right.
I mean, her colleagues at the CIA would say that her emotional intelligence was through the roof. Right. But now she's going to tell me that she didn't know that I was in love with her. Like, okay, babe, got it. Right. So she applied there. And then eventually, I just started to feel like in March of 2003 is when we invaded Iraq. And I had my focus was more Al-Qaeda personally, Al-Qaeda and Afghanistan. I had some, a little confused by the Iraq thing. However, I felt like the wars were passing me by in a way that I felt called to serve. And if I don't, I will regret this for the rest of my life. So eventually I just went down to the recruiting station. I biked from Ponte Vedra to the recruiting station, which was in Atlantic Beach, which is actually a decent little bike ride on a bad bike, like a cruiser or something that I had, and enlisted to join Army Special Forces if you make it through. And then I told Emily, and she had applied to the agency. But the more important thing was, at the same time, because you can never do one change at a time, like, oh, and by the way, I love you. I finally told her, right? I'm going to the Army and I love you, right? So, she's like, okay, I don't really know what to make of this. And because I'm off to basic training.
Yeah.
So.
And you were a college graduate at this point, right?
Yeah, I was.
So is that you had head in as an officer?
No. So that was kind of part of the hang up. There was such a line to get into the military that I was in the sort of just the flywheel of going nowhere in terms of getting a commission. So I enlisted. And, actually what I wanted to do, and I didn't really know the difference. I didn't, I did, but I didn't. And I wanted to be on the tip of the spear, and I got it. And you get that more of the tip of the spear if you're enlisted. Yeah. So I was, it worked out the way that it was meant to work out. And ultimately there was a decision that I made and wanted to make and had to make. And I'm grateful and glad that I did. And so, but yeah, wanting to do something and then actually doing it in a time of war are very different things. And
absolutely.
So the next, years were really filled with extreme challenges and kind of processing what that meant at a human level. But I wrote Emily a lot of letters from basic training as often as I possibly could. And she wrote me a few. I cherished them. And she came to my basic training graduation and, slowly started dating, I guess. Slowly is definitely the wrong word because it was just on a bullet train, right? I mean, because I'm basic training and then airborne school and then I'm transferring to Fort Bragg, which is North Carolina, to go through that training. And then she's down here. She took a job as a 8th grade Spanish teacher at Bowles at Bartram campus. And then, got a call from the agency and she's going to agency, which takes a year.
Right.
She's doing the agency interview process and I'm in this phase of training and we're dating and then we're going to get married. And then I'm coming home every single weekend that I can. It's about a 6-hour drive, 4 hours, 45 minutes if you do 100, 110, 95.
Yeah,
so it was usually under 5, door to door. And I'm down here every single weekend. And then, I'm in the Special Forces qualification course is over 2 years. So the first year she's teaching at Bowles and I'm coming down here.
How do you,
it's crazy.
Okay. So, and T, jump in anytime.
Sure.
So you're going through all of the basic training. And is that when you started turning heads that people go, okay, this guy could actually apply for special forces?
No, I had a contract going in.
Okay.
And the contract was you'll be slotted for these schools. So basic training, the net was about 4 months. Airborne school is 3 weeks. They're both at Fort Benning. And you go do that. And then I drove to Fort Bragg and then all of that series, there's like 6 phases plus some prep courses because I was coming straight off the street. So the catch, of course, is you have to make it through.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. You said there's a process. You have to, take steps. And what is the percentage of people that start where you were and wanted to be that made it to where you ended up? What's that process like for?
I don't know. Let's call it under 10%, under 5%, depending upon how far back you go from, hey, I got this contract to basic training to airborne school to prep course for phase 1 and prep course for phase 2, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6. And then, you make it through and then you're a Green Beret.
It's incredible.
And then the real work starts because it's much like you graduated from middle school. Nobody in high school wants your middle school stories. Nobody cares.
Right.
Then the real training begins. And then,
you go to your group and it's full of Green Berets. Like you got basic training stories and they just came back from Iraq.
Right.
Right. And it was it was a violent trip. I mean, you just shut your mouth and follow them.
That's the best way to enter high school is just shut your mouth. You always had the one guy that wanted to tell everybody what to do, and as a freshman, and they get stuck in the locker.
Very bad.
You learn your lesson to just shut your mouth. So is that when? Sorry, T.
Go ahead.
Is that? I know you have a pretty cool picture for us. Is that about the time that you have the picture?
So fast forward the second year of that. So Emily then joined the CIA, right? Which her training is about a year to graduate. And the second part of the training is in Williamsburg, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm going to DC and there and all this stuff. Well, she graduated from the farm a week before I graduated from the Special Forces qualification course. So in Fort Bragg. So she came down to Fort Bragg, and the picture that I brought is this one. This is from the graduation at Fort Bragg, where she had just graduated, I had just graduated. We both achieved these crazy goals.
Right.
And we're married. And we kind of just, the worlds had converged in this moment. And
you look so young.
You get to feel, if you're lucky, you get to feel as much of a king as I did on that day. Just king of the world. I mean, you don your Green Beret for the first time. This girl that you've loved your whole life is there. You're married. She just graduated from her own stuff and it just felt perfect.
And what year was that? How old were y'all?
That was 2006. So I would have been 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got children.
Oh no.
I mean, you have them. So when did all of that?
So this is where it just gets crazy.
Okay.
So we were married for 5 years, never lived together, right? From training to then we went from this.
Can you imagine that?
We went from this moment to she went to war zones in Africa, right? And then got posted in West Africa, in Ivory Coast. And I went to Fort Carson, Colorado, and then was barely there, and then went to Iraq, and then I was in Africa as well. And we got divorced in 2009, right after I got out of the military. And so, and then it took us some years to get back together. And so we got remarried. So yeah, I remarried my ex-wife.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, we have kids now and everything, and just living the good life. I mean, it's hard. Everything's hard. It's not like
I can't imagine living apart from each other for so many years after you.
It's just, I mean, you're just on a roller coaster, and it just happens to be like this. And you're around so many people that are doing crazy things that you just accept it as a norm, or you just deal with it. And so it's also felt like you're holding your breath, and you can't hold it forever. Right. So, it cost us a lot. The service to our country, it cost us a lot. And yet life's not always fair, and it's not always perfect, and there's plenty of failure along the way. And so, we had to figure out what that meant for us and for us individually, and we're in a really good spot now.
Well, I think we should take a second, and I think we speak on behalf of everybody that's going to hear this and watch it, and just say thank you for your service to our country. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You mentioned not wanting to have regrets. I don't have a whole lot of regrets in my life, but that's one of them, that I didn't go into the military. My dad retired from the Navy, and for some reason I just never did. And now I regret that decision not to at least serve for 4 years.
So, I mean, the way that I look at it is, thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
Without 9/11, I never would have joined. And so my life changed dramatically because of that tragedy. And so it's not like there's not all of it's circumstantial as well, is what I'm saying. It's not like, I just had this goal, and it was just, if that wouldn't have happened at age 22, if that would have happened when I was 14 or 16, or if
40.
I'm 40 and I have a family and kids, it's just, I think the more important part is that you can pass that legacy on to your kids. It's not all about you. And the way that you do that is you can honor what that legacy means inside of your family. You can pay that forward. You can talk about your dad. You can talk about other people that your kids meet, or whatever that looks like. There's a million different ways to serve. And even between me and Em, I mean, America loves her veterans. I mean, Em was on the front lines of war zones as well as a onesie, like by herself. I mean, she's weighs tiny little. Gorgeous runner girl, right? In war-torn Chad and Darfur and all of these things, right? With warlords and AKs is just like freedom and oxygen around here. That's what they got there, And so, there's so many people serving so many different ways that I feel like we could expand a love to those who serve, from the teachers in our communities to the firefighters and the police officers and those that join the military, and those like Em that join the CIA and the State Department and go abroad and do what I believe is God's work.
Yeah.
Is there so you were in some very tempest-ridden locations doing things that we could hardly even consider being a part of. Is there a day that you remember that may be the toughest day or the most tumultuous day when you were serving the country?
So, you hear these stories about it's so much boredom and so much silence, and then it's just extreme violence all around. And, woke up some normal day in southern Iraq, and our job was to train a local police force. And, the powers that be, the insurgents, the various factions that were looking to destabilize Iraq. I mean, you destabilize it through assassinations and violence and getting the people swayed against the Americans, which is a very easy thing to do. Anytime someone's occupying a place, it's very easy to sway the people against them, just in general. So be careful about occupations.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the local sheikhs decided that they were going to assassinate the police chief in town and send thousands of freedom fighters down to overtake the police headquarters and just, institute chaos and martial law. And we were the only special forces team there. And we had a local police force that we would work by, with, and through. So the special thing about Green Berets is that you work by, with, and through local partner forces. It's not just you going and doing something. You can bring hundreds of fighters with you. It's like after 9/11, the Green Berets went into Afghanistan and they linked up with the Northern Alliance in order to defeat the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. So it wasn't just Green Berets going and trying to fight directly, because that is a losing proposition. Like trying to fight a ground war in Asia or whatever, it just, you can't do it, right? Eventually it just falters. So this is a model that works. You work with the locals. So our police force had gotten banged up and shot up, and we basically had to go out and kind of go on patrols looking to pick a fight with anybody that was in town. And so, we have all of the air assets that you could possibly imagine, and we were standing there with the police captain, who was not assassinated but was close. And
how many Green Berets?
There were 10 of us.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. 3 gun trucks.
Okay.
Right? And and then there was the Iraqis had pickup trucks and stuff, but and it was just the wild, wild west. So there was a map of the city, and you think that there's all of this planning, but it all turns into these. Okay, what do you know right now, and where are you going to get your information from right now? And so, police chief we pulled out a map of the city, and it was like, where are the bad guys right now? Because there was always this sort of conflict about what are they going to share with us and what are they not going to share with us. And now they needed us because a bunch of their guys had gotten shot up and killed. And so our job was to help them. It's like, well, you point to a certain place. It's like, okay. And so I would send an aircraft over there to check it out. I'm like, okay, do you see activity there? It's like, no activity. It's like, okay, where else are they? Like, point here on this map. And okay, look over here. And then send another aircraft, like, yep, lots of people. It's like, okay, let's go there. And we did. It was just the wild, wild west. And then, then just the flood of Green Berets started coming in. So then we had, the company was there, and we're working with a lot more of them. But it's just, you're going, the hard thing to explain is that if you're just in a defensive posture, it's very unsafe. If you're waiting to get attacked, it's very unsafe. If you're on offense, it's safer. Now, within that, I do not mean to apply any type of warmongering. Like, if you can avoid war, avoid war. Yeah. It's a horrible thing, and I don't wish it upon anyone. I do wish the lessons that I learned there upon everyone, though. So I'm a better person because I went through this, because I learned to trust the guy to my left and the guy to my right. I learned about a way to lead a life that matters in service to something greater than yourself. And I learned that in a baptism by fire. And I'm grateful to those men for all of eternity. Wow. For what I learned from them, and yet it's a horrible thing if you have to go do it. And so, I would wish great wisdom upon our leadership that we choose that option very carefully. Yeah. Because the guys that want to fight war they want to go do it. If you sign up to go join these kinds of units, you want to be used. And where it's necessary, then it's necessary. But it's the job of leaders to pull people back who would needlessly put themselves in harm's way.
And sometimes for an end goal that isn't worth putting people's lives on the line. That's right. If it is life or death for our families back home, then there's not even a question. But some of the reasoning, when we look back on some of the wars, you kind of just go, man, I don't know if we really had to go in on that.
Yeah, I mean, it helps if you define success at the outset. Like, what are we going to get out? What does success look like? And this is true, in business and life and in war. There's so many parallels where, hey, what do I want this to look like? And then you can go get that. But the machine will start to run itself at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder what the transition was like when you are coming to the end of your career in the military and your service. Then, what does that look like?
How many years was that?
I was in for 5 years, from 2003 to 2008, and Emily was posted in West Africa, and that was kind of the impetus to get out of the military. And the transition was horrible. It was like, a total loss of identity, a loss of self, a loss of job, a loss of all the losses. And I felt like I was quitting. My buddies were going back to war, and I'm quitting. And they actually understood my situation, but that didn't really matter to the feelings. And so, I mean, it was just really, really, really hard.
And so some of those feelings that you just described, those are the feelings that, we talked about veteran suicide a little bit before we started filming. Those are some of the feelings I would imagine, folks have that decide to end it. I know you're passionate about, helping in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, look, I checked out of Fort Carson, and I had to take a razor blade to the sticker on my windshield, right? That gave me base access. And I had to turn that in at the gate. And it's these kind of symbolic things that you do. Like, I remember the razor blade on my green Xterra that I had. And then I cried about the whole way through Kansas, driving back home to Florida. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And, it was supposed to be a happy thing. I was getting out, I would have more freedom. I was going to fly to Africa and finally live with them. And, there was just so much baggage. There's so much to process.
Yeah.
And, the bullet train it stops and you don't even realize that it's stopping, or you think you don't want to be on the bullet train, but you actually become addicted to the bullet train. And so you miss the speed, and you're supposed to now behave differently, or you're supposed to conform in a way that I'm not used to conforming like this.
Right.
I'm used to just, task, mission, and purpose. And you wake up every day and like, I'm serving, this matters. And then now what? And so, I think the veteran kind of suicide, veteran isolation, I think it's a more common thing, and it's not unique to veterans. There's just a loss of community. There's a loss of tribe. There's not true camaraderie or fellowship. These things have gone way, way down in our society. And it's certainly an acute problem in the military, and it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
And I do. And I'm passionate about that within the veteran space. It's just not something that is only isolated to the veteran space, from the standpoint of, I think lots of people are isolated and lonely. And I think we need a lot more community and fitness and camaraderie and the things that brought us together, that were the best parts of the Army, the military. You don't have to join the military to have those in your life, but you do have to put the effort in the real world, and you have to develop and foster and grow relationships and community. You have to show up for other people, and you have to let other people show up for you.
I think that's why something like GORUCK Nation is so important, as you mentioned, for not just people that are connected to the military, but just people who are looking for a community, of folks that are going to push them to be, better versions of themselves, including the physical side of it. But just the mentality that brings is extremely needed for a lot of people when it comes to.
Yeah, I mean, look, the physical side is just a gateway.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you have to be physically fit in the military, but when you look at it, you look at health, right? Everyone wants to be healthier and all these things. I mean, physical health is the most basic, right? I mean, if you walk more, if you move more, if you do a couple push-ups, if you do whatever it might be for you, the more that you move, the healthier you'll end up being. This is a really good thing. I would describe this as at the bottom of the health pyramid. At the very top of the health pyramid, mental health. So, spiritual health, mental health, how you're feeling in that big muscle between your ears, right? How's that going? But the glue to me is social health. I mean, look, go to the mountaintop and try to work through your mental health problems, it doesn't work, right? I mean, we're meant to be social. The best moments in our lives are shared. The people that we love spending time with them as well. And the more that we invest in that, and the friendships and, you know, our spouses and our loved ones and our kids and all of that, I mean, the more fulfilled we end up feeling. And, you know, if you happen to involve physical fitness in that, you're also becoming physically healthier, which is just better. You can do more things.
Yeah. We're definitely, we were made for community. I mean, when COVID was here and people were isolated, mental health problems were going through the roof because we are meant to be together. And I think that if you can be in community and physically active at the same time, that's like the best of both worlds for me. I absolutely love that.
I mean, like literally humans, Homo sapiens, survived all of evolution to become the apex species because we were communal.
Right.
And, you know, it doesn't mean that there's saber-toothed tigers that a bunch of us have to go and fight, although we'd probably do fine, you know? But it's more like you can take the essence of that and say, hey, you know, we're actually meant to be a part of something more than just staring at our screen and waiting for DoorDash to show up with dinner.
Absolutely
I mean,
agree.
break bread with the people that you love. Invite somebody to go do something. Get out there and go do more things with this very small amount of time that you have on this earth, and it can be gone like that. And so invest in the things that matter.
Jason, that's really what GORUCK does. You know, if you think about it, you have impacted thousands of people's lives with that theory in mind. When you came back and transitioned back, where did you get the idea? What started this whole thing?
Well, you know, it goes back to Emily, of course, right?
Of course.
So before I had gone to Ivory Coast, West Africa, after the military, I took a, quote, vacation there after my deployment to Iraq.
Okay.
And before, because it was Christmas time. And so I had a couple weeks and I went there, vacation in war-torn West Africa with my CIA spouse, right?
Perfect, yeah.
And so I went there and realized I'd just gotten back from Iraq, so I'm just in this mindset. And it was just kind of a weird environment. And I say weird because in Iraq, you had a gun truck and you knew if someone shot at you, they were bad, probably. And you know, that just kind of was what it was. It was a war zone. Africa was just kind of odd. Like the hair on the back of my neck would stand up and I wasn't quite sure why. And so I went there and, you know, Emily had a diplomatic housing, and there was a gate around it, and there was, you know, barbed wire around it, and she had a guard. The guard didn't have any, you know, didn't have a gun or anything, but there was a guard there. It was just that kind of semi-permissive, let's call it, environment. But I went into, you know, okay, these are the steps that we need to take. So I made her what we called a go bag. And a go bag, which we used in Iraq, was you fill a rucksack with extra bombs, ammunition, batteries, water, and you put it in the trunk of your Humvee. And you put it there in case your vehicle's disabled and you have to fight in place. So you have extra stuff. Extra stuff is good if you need it. And so I made her a couple of those in Ivory Coast, one for her car and one for the house. And then I made a couple more for the people that were at the embassy. It's like, hey, just have this. It's not gonna hurt. Put it in your car just in case. And it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do when I get out of the military? And was like, oh, you should do the GORUCK thing. We were standing in the guest, never forget it, the sort of the room off the master in her diplomatic housing with diplomatic furniture, and her dog, our dog Java, was there, and that was the genesis of GORUCK. And so it's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And it evolved a million different ways, but you know, the line that kind of became funny over time was, oh, I don't really like these bags. We could probably do it better. How hard can that be?
Right.
And so that was a multi-year journey to even get bags designed and developed and manufactured, and then, you know, put them in a rooftop rack of a Ford Expedition and drive around the whole country and sell none of them and try to figure out how to do something that, I mean, GORUCK is funded on our deployment dollars, mine and M's. That's how this all started. And so had every dollar and then some poured into inventory, and eventually came up with the GORUCK Challenge, similar to the event that you did, lovingly referred to as Fight Club with rucksacks. And so it's basically like, hey, pick up here, stuff the ruck with this stuff, pick up the ruck and follow me. And I just kind of poured my heart into building teams because that's what I knew how to do. I didn't know how to do Facebook ads and Google ads. I didn't want to. That was scarier than going back to Iraq with, that's scary stuff. And that just sort of grew over time organically, and that became GORUCK. And so then it was sort of off to the races. But the business itself is manufacturing company. We manufacture the gear from the ground up, all of it, from the rucks to the apparel to the shoes now, and then going on 20 years.
Super high quality.
It's been a lot of, I mean, it's a lifetime guarantee. This is where we honor it. You break it, we fix it. And my version of hell was to ever get a call from one of my buddies who took our first prototypes to war that this gear had failed them, because I was out and I had this enormous guilt at being out of the military at that time. And so we just wanted to overbuild everything, make sure that it worked and that it would just endure hell. And so, that's been you just keep refining your craft over years and decades, and we're still really good at that.
And how long have you been doing this GORUCK?
So Emily said you should do the GORUCK thing in 2007.
Okay.
In her diplomatic housing in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, West Africa. And now here we are.
And you pour everything into it.
Yeah.
Everything you have.
Heart, soul, blood, tears, all of it.
Wow.
Immense success, obviously. Do you know how many rucksacks you've sold over that time period?
Yeah, I mean, you could say we sold 1 million or so.
Just 1 million.
That's pretty
That's
good.
incredible.
It's not bad.
And so when did you decide to put the plates? I don't know if the people in Jacksonville understand what we do because we've done it. So
the definition of rucking is put some weight on your back and go for a walk. Now, when you see these weighted vest walks or whatever in your neighborhood, if you've seen those, that's like ultimately that kind of, we brought this to the civilian world.
Yeah.
And this is kind of our love letter to the country, the world, and you're seeing other people get into the space, and that's great. We want rucking to be bigger than running. Also want American people to be healthier and stronger and more socially connected and all of that stuff. Rucking is just sort of the way and the vessel for us. So what started out as, at the first GORUCK Challenge, I brought a slab of bricks that I had bought at, I think, Home Depot. And I said, all right, here's a slab of bricks, put them in the rucks and pick up the ruck and follow me. And that sort of evolved into then, I don't know how long it's been now, probably 10, 12 years. We started manufacturing cast iron plates, and the plates became the weight. And there's sort of standardized weights for the events, 20 or 30, depending upon your weight, and then you would add more throughout the course of the event. So the ruck plates go inside of the rucks, and there's other rucks that you put laptops in, you can travel with.
Yeah.
There's all different kinds of stuff now. I mean, we have, 4,000 or 5,000 SKUs at the company now.
Mine does both. Like I can put the plate in it and I can take it to the airport and use it.
So that the original ruck, which you have, is a very versatile ruck. The ruck it's called the rucker, which you were putting on right before, that is purpose built for here's where the plate goes. It's very stable and sized perfectly to it. You put it on and it's like it's just on your back and it's not going to move, and it's perfect.
Serious business. That's for when
to us it's very serious business, right? You can smile when you're rucking, but the business side is the gear and the manufacturing is very serious.
There's never a relief. That's the thing. You're engaged the entire time, and you can't just, even if you sit down, there's no relief to the ruck on your back. So you're always engaged.
The only way to find relief is to get stronger. Right?
That is true, and I know I have plenty to go. I have plenty to go. And then he took some of the sandbags and threw them in my backpack too. So I had the plate and sandbags because he just wanted to make sure I enjoyed it.
You got the sweat and the sand. It's like
I'm telling you,
I'd be having nightmares still. I need to do one of those.
I used to tell him about our Spartan races, and he goes, "That's sweet."
He would laugh.
That's really sweet. Yeah. I'm glad to hear you did a 13
No,
mile.
full disclosure, you were a really good teammate on that event. Everybody gets love at the events, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have stuff that one person can't carry by themselves, and that's the point.
Yeah.
You know, other stuff that we do. I mean, we have, I don't know, there's 4 community workouts right here at this location a week. People come, it's 30, 45 minutes. You got a sandbag, you pick it up, you know, move the sandbag, go to the back, the stop sign and back, whatever it might be. It's not all the same as your event was.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know. I mean, this has been an incredible conversation. We could sit here all day and learn more from you. I know we're
talking about it.
I know we're getting to our time limit, but is there something that you would want the public to know about GORUCK or about this community in general that maybe they wouldn't be aware of from what we've talked about so far?
Well, I guess especially given the audience, we're really proud to be in Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
We love it here. You know, my house is a few miles north. You know, we bike a ton out here. We ruck a ton out here. We're on the beach. We're here. There's a really active community of people that provide a lot of, like, that we cherish out here. Deep friendships. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to live.
And if somebody wants to get involved with some of the stuff you're talking about, the workouts, do they go to the website? What do they show up here on certain days?
Yes, you can. So you can contact us and find us on any of the social media platforms, and we'll point you in the right direction. Everything's at GORUCK, GORUCK. But I think the more important part is that we're proud to be here, and yet we feel like we have something to give back. And that's not just put stuff in a box and ship it to people. Look, I mean, we want to inspire and challenge people to do a little bit more, to give back a little bit more, to take care of yourself a little bit more, to challenge yourself to be more for the people who are around you. And sometimes that means you have to focus on, you know, your fitness or your health or just being a little bit more active. And sometimes it also means you need to kind of join a group, find something where you can be accepted for who you are. People that like to, you know, sometimes people like to be masochists like Daniel and show up for the crazy thing first. And other people, it's like, go for a walk with your friend, right? I mean, yes, we spend a lot of time building stuff and manufacturing it. And that's a very serious side of our business, but that's not what we're in business for. We want to talk about building better Americans and stronger communities and getting people active out there and encouraging those people to bring more people along with them. And so the challenge is not just for us to keep growing the business, it's to really have social impact on how we kind of live our lives and to feel connected and to feel like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. And right here in Jax Beach, Florida, we very much feel that way.
Well, I got to tell you, it's an honor for me to sit with somebody that's given their life to service and that's put their life on the line to keep my family safe and to protect my country. And there are bad people in this world, and you have to have warriors like you that stand up for our country. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming on Speakeasy. This has been a great conversation. I think the citizens of Jacksonville are really going to enjoy what you have to say, and they want to get to know you.
Well, thanks.
But thanks for coming on, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to Speakeasy Jax. If you enjoyed the conversation, follow us on our social media platforms, share it with a friend, and make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.